No, please don't.
Yeah,
Just
okay,
hang on.
thank you. Just making
Everyone
sure.
stay where you are.
But we are
I've
officially
stopped
closing
the
this
recording
meeting
and
immediately.
reopened it. So I think our 10 seconds is up. We're ready to move on.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye, Patrick. Thank you. Hi,
Thank
everybody.
you.
So Patrick actually had another commitment and wanted me to run the whole meeting, but I couldn't because I had to recuse myself from the Seaport issue. So anyway, I'm Laura Starr. I'm the assistant chair of this committee. And we are going to discuss the modified general project plan for 5 World Trade Center. So let's see who we have. I'm trying to figure out how, by the way, Paul, your hand is up. Do you?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it down, sorry.
Okay. Um, I'm wondering how much detail to go through on this. Basically, what we need to write a resolution on is the conversion of 5 World Trade Center from being a commercial building to becoming a residential building. And there was a bunch of material that Diana sent around. One of the things in the material was a graph that showed, or a spreadsheet that showed different amounts of land uses in the building, like a certain amount of residential versus a smaller amount of residential, but more fitness, more community space, more retail. So I'm wondering if you all have looked over this, and if you would like to discuss this, maybe Diana, I could either share my screen or Diana could share her screen. That struck me as one issue worth discussing, and I didn't know if anybody else would like to nominate issues to discuss on um, this modified plan so that we use our time effectively.
Laura, I'll
So,
pull it up on my screen. We can reference, and I just put in the chat if someone wants to open it on their end, the amendments to the general project plan itself, and then the proposed mixed-use design guidelines that are part of the modified general project plan. And I will note that there's currently an open public comment period on the modified general project plan, which is why we're discussing and voting on it this month. There's a public hearing on January 12th. And the public comment period is open for written comment until February 15th. So the board adopted, and I'll share this in the chat, a resolution last month through quality of life and adopted by the full board, specifically supporting 100% affordable housing on the site. We'll be submitting that as well as whatever resolution comes out of land use on the modified general project plan and whatever resolution comes out of environmental on the finding of no significant impact in the environmental assessment. We'll package that together and submit it as written comment as part of this comment period on these.
Okay. So Diana, you're going to show your screen, and Jill has her hand up. Jill.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to make sure that the design requirements, which they call guidelines, but are actual requirements, are going to be part of this discussion.
Yes, we can have whatever we want, whatever the people on this call would like to have as part of the discussion. I will facilitate the discussion. I just don't want to spend a lot of time talking about stuff that nobody's concerned about. Does that make sense? So, okay, so we will talk about the design guidelines. And I would like to talk about I suggest that we talk about this these options on page 9 of this document, which right here. Okay. So does anybody have an opinion about the balance, the maximum residential versus the reduced residential? I'm going to bring up one thing that I don't think has come up, which is I know Community Board 1 has been really stressed over school seats, and we're adding a lot of residential units in general, whether they're affordable or not. It's still adding a lot of probably families to Lower Manhattan and more pressure on the schools. And that makes me think, maybe opting for fewer units and more the community facility and maybe trying to get some classrooms in there, you know, might be something to consider. That's just my opinion, but my role is actually to be facilitating everybody. So does anybody want to talk about this chart that's up on the screen?
Can
No
I ask a
opinion?
question?
Yeah.
I think Jill raised her hand, but I just couldn't figure out how to do it and look at everything at the same time. So may I go first?
Yes. Mhm.
Thank you so much. Sorry. So I guess my question is like almost an initial thing. So if these are the guidelines and we're jumping to talking about this, I'm almost thinking that, I mean, fair warning, I'm part of 100% affordability for this building. And I think that the way that the guidelines are written, from what all the powers that be have said, the way the guidelines are written, it can't be 100% affordable because it's not economically feasible. So why would we want to talk about the guidelines if the position maybe is better to say, or better for me, my position is better to say, I want to reject the guidelines. I want it to be residential, but I want to reject these guidelines and I'd like them to go back to the drawing board and come up with something else because we haven't decided yet on what kind of a building it's going to be. And these guidelines are written specifically to what Silverstein and Brookfield want to make.
Well, actually, Justine, it's Vicky. I'll tell you,
Yeah, help me.
it's
Yeah.
worse than that. It's worse than that. What you do is the code requires, or zoning requires, you have commercial on ground floor, right? And then community facility gives you additional square footage. This is like retail is required by zoning. This isn't even a clever interpretation. This is just following a cookie cutter. Their main number here is the 1,386,000 for the square footage of residential. And then commercial is, because this is probably zoned both commercial and residential.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is just a cookie cutter nonsense, maximizing their square footage and profit.
Right, because the more commercial, the more profit.
Well, probably
One would
more
assume.
commercial and residential, but they're utilizing their zoning, right? So it's zoned for commercial and residential. It has a maximum FAR, right? Floor to area ratio. So they just divided it. Yeah, it's not like anything special here. It's just all, you know, to their benefit, but mostly the residential, you know, 1 million, you know, almost 1 million for square feet. That's it. I mean, they're not listening to us at all.
Right. So, but does that go to what I'm saying, that we shouldn't even waste our time talking about it? We should just reject it
Well,
out of hand?
I mean, let me just sort some of
Yeah.
these issues out. Not that I'm a landscape architect, I'm not a zoning expert. Diana may have to help me, but my understanding is that of the residential portion, there's a desire by some on the community board to have 100% affordable. But still the building needs to have retail in its base, a community facility, fitness
Yes.
and social, and some commercial. So the
Yes.
question is, are you questioning the whole premise of this, or do you just want to focus on how can we get the residential to be 100% affordable, which we already have a resolution on? So I'm trying to figure out what you would like.
Yeah, I
what
hear you.
is- I mean, you know, yeah, so that's my question, Diana. I don't know if you want to shed any light on my question.
Sure. And you know, the basis of this whole discussion is the modified general project plan, as it was originally strictly commercial and office, right? And I think, you know, we all agree in supporting affordable housing that we prefer mixed use version over something that was commercial or office. So that's something that we can state. We already have something on record supporting 100% affordable housing. So I think that the discussion that's left is how much we want to comment on affordable housing. We already have a position on that. What do we want to see more of? What do we want to see less of? I know in previous discussions there have been comments on things that are cost prohibitive in the design guidelines as things that are too expensive and might preclude things like maximizing affordable housing, maximizing community facility use. What kind of community facilities the community would want to see? Do we want to see less retail and office and more community facility use? and things like that. I think those things will be at the heart of the discussion and
So
things
that's
that
what
I
we
have
could
heard
talk
from
about
different-
today without compromising affordability. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I don't think we need to get in terms of square footage and things like that. I don't think we need to get, you know, real down into the weeds on that. But if people in terms of balance and programming, I think that's what is really useful here. We already have a resolution on record for affordable housing stating a preference over 100%. So that's one piece of the puzzle here, right? In terms of the building programming and balance and things like office, you know, fitness and social center, community facility uses.
And,
that-
okay, Jill, go ahead.
Okay, hi, thank you. I'm going to address specifically what Laura had asked with regard to this chart. And I want to point out when you do read these guidelines, there is they talk about the language, they use two things, shall and may. And this is important to note because in instances where they talk about shall, that makes it a mandatory design element. Where they say may, they can. So in terms of schooling, I think, or in terms of another school, I think that issue is a bigger issue. I don't know that there's a need right now. There may be a need, but I think that you can't just jump to the conclusion that there needs to be another school. We just opened another one downtown. However, I do think that the 36,000 square feet fitness and social center, which would be, I assume, a public health club, let's just say for lack of anything, say a giant Equinox, they're looking to do that without New York City permits. I don't think that's right. And I'm not sure that this community needs a 36,000 square foot health club. So that is one area that can be an option for a school or for other uses. But mainly, I'd like to say the community facility at 13,000 square feet is an insult to this community. It's abysmal. The developers of this site have built, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of square feet and have not given anything back to this community in terms of public usage. I think a little 13,000 square feet does not give us anywhere near enough space. And what I have heard from the community is that they want a community facility that has exercise and gym space and other activity space. And I think that's what I am hearing. Personally, I'd like to see the 36,000 square feet be the community space. I think considering the amount of public funds that have been given to these developers, the fact that this is public land, that it was paid for with our tax dollars, and calling a 13,000 square foot community facility anything other than an insult is beyond me. Thank you.
So Jill, just so I understand, are you imagining like a larger, you know, like the place on Warren Street, the community center there that, you know, where Manhattan Youth is with the pool and all of that? Is that, you're thinking of something like that that's large? Is that correct?
Yes, but not just for youth. In this case, it would be a senior center, which is sorely lacking in this area.
Right.
There's
Okay.
really no senior center. It's desperately needed. There's many different community services that could be and are desperately needed. I know that the people that they have been talking to, I think it's called Educational Alliance,
Mhm.
the center they have on the Lower East Side is a gigantic building. It's 100,000 square feet, and they have an extraordinary amount of wonderful programs that they do. I think the 36,000 square feet should be the community center. I think it should
Okay.
include a senior center. And I think that considering this is public land paid for with public dollars, that it's absolutely imperative that we
So-
look at it that.
And when this, Diana, when this says fitness and social center, that is not the amenity fitness for the building, right? That would be like an Equinox or a YMCA or something? Like how is,
They reference a PCE or physical culture establishment in a gym, and like Jill said, that is one of the overrides, is that they don't have to seek that PCE. Yes, I understood that to mean a gym
Okay.
or fitness
so
center
we're
of some
saying
kind.
rather than like an Equinox or something, you know, where you have to pay a lot of money a month that's more exclusive, we want something that's really a community facility where, there's the whole community, seniors and all sorts of people, everybody's invited to do different activities there, right?
Correct.
Yeah, how about a
Um,
full gym that some of the local schools couldn't even come in to use at certain
Right,
times if they rented out? I mean,
right.
how many schools don't even have gyms?
Well, that's right. So, okay, so Diana, does this seem like something we can request?
Yeah, 100%.
I think so. Is there anything else on here that I think we're probably okay with the 12,000 square foot retail versus the 25,000?
Well, when it comes to retail, I just wanted to jump in. I am always an advocate for a grocery store in this community. We
Yeah,
do not have a grocery store. The one that we had was destroyed 9/11, and we have not gotten, if it doesn't sell toilet paper, it is not a grocery
There
store.
you go.
And
okay.
Italy does not sell toilet paper, so it cannot be called a grocery
I
store.
think we
We
should be
just,
very specific about that, so we don't end up with another Lululemon or something if we want a
right.
grocery store.
That was number
Um,
1 point for me. Number
yeah,
two, Jill spoke about the senior center. As a senior, I'm always, always, always advocating for any kind of facility you know, for seniors. We have lots and lots of facilities for children and young people. We don't have enough facilities for older
right,
people. When it comes to schools, 2 blocks away from the site, there's a new school that is opening. So, and I've been told that we've lost students in this community. So I don't think that we have a problem with school seats. I could be wrong. I think the Youth and Education Committee would have to, speak to that.
right, okay,
But definitely my 2 points are seniors, quiet space, places to train, computer, whatever for seniors. Any kind of physical activity that seniors are capable of. There should be space for them where we don't have to compete with young people, and also the grocery store.
so the grocery store, I'm just thinking, so 12,000 square feet, an acre is, the Whole Foods is probably 40,000 square feet. What do you think? It's like it takes up the width, no,
I mean,
how
look at
many
well,
square
how
feet
much
do you
is
think is our
Christie's?
Whole Foods?
How big is a
100
Christie's?
by 100, like, I think we need more square feet if we're doing a grocery store. What do you think?
I
Should we
would
go?
think so, because the Gristedes, at least here in Battery Park City, they're tiny.
Yeah, but we don't want, but
No,
I
you
think,
don't want tiny, right?
no, we want a nice grocery store, right? There's a lot of people living south of the World Trade Center now,
Exactly.
and they shouldn't just have to schlep up to Whole Foods, right?
Trader
So,
Well, yeah, a lot of
Trader
people can't afford
Joe's
to
would
go
be
to Whole
great.
Foods.
How about
And
that?
I forget whole paycheck. It's a little
right.
expensive. I would
I
right.
mean, and
certainly.
Italy, a lot of people can't afford to shop at Italy or Whole Foods.
That's right.
So, especially seniors. So I
Especially
think
Check the
that,
Whole Foods is 69,000 square feet that I just checked for the record.
Maybe we should
Renee,
do a
say
food
that again.
co-op there.
food
Um,
co-op would be great.
wouldn't that be great?
Yep.
I'm sorry,
Um,
what was 69,000 square feet?
I just looked it up. The Whole Foods in Tribeca was supposed to be 69,000 square feet. I mean, I didn't do any
Is it?
major research.
Right, ground footprint here on this building is 93,000 square feet.
The ground, meaning that's
So
how,
one floor
Got it.
plate is 93, 92 something.
well, Whole Foods does stretch all the way from Greenwich to the West Side Highway. So that
it
in
does.
itself is what, probably 600 or 800 feet by, yeah, it's probably at least 80,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Commercial space, can that go towards the grocery store?
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Commercial, well, a grocery store is really retail, right? So commercial means like offices, doesn't it? But we could
We should say
reshuffle
no
it.
to
That's what
that.
you're saying. We should reshuffle.
In our resolution that the preference over commercial or office is towards retail that's community geared, that
Mhm.
actually serves of actually supporting the community
Especially since we've lost
as it's desperately needed.
we've
Yeah.
lost Century 21, which was, at least a facility that we could buy sheets and towels and
Mhm.
things like that. We've lost a lot of retail that was user friendly for the residents. prior to 9/11, a lot of the retail was for the workers. And we have fought bitterly to get retail that is specifically for people who live here. I don't know what they just kept not believing people really lived here. Well, okay, after 9/11, we know the population has quadrupled. So
Yep.
now we have accurate numbers of how many people live here, and we need retail.
We need retail. You're exactly right. And we don't need commercial in this building.
Yeah,
It
affordable
is,
groceries.
yep.
All
I
right.
think we should give some names, or can we do that? And
I think we should. I think we should get very specific because otherwise, I mean, I've seen this happen so much. It's like we want something that is usable for us, but then, they go to a commercial real estate broker and they end up with,
yeah.
I don't know, another Tiffany's or something that we
Yep.
don't necessarily want. So I
Laura,
think,
oh, I'm sorry.
what? Go ahead.
How about like Europeans have those fresh food stalls instead of expensive grocery stores where we could have, you walk in. There's one in Toronto called St. Lawrence Market, and every day you get fresh fruit, meat, fish, you name it, where smaller people can buy stalls, and then we can get fresh food. Half or something, because I was just told that there's a Whole Foods going on to 1 Wall Street 2 blocks over. And like you say, or Pat was saying, it's
But
expensive.
when? Right?
Yeah, when, but is there
That Whole Foods has been coming for 5 years. When is that Whole Foods
Also,
open?
another
Whole
Whole
Foods is
Been in
not cheap.
construction
is not
forever.
so how about farmer stuff where we can get fresh things? Why not?
Okay.
Or
Okay, so
Trader
let's write
Joe's.
that down. Let's just
I think
let's
Trader-
Or Trader Joe's.
I would go with
Trader
Trader Joe's
Joe's.
only, Vicky, not because I don't want fresh stuff. I do, but it's expensive.
I know. Yeah,
Well, and
And
the fresh
we
stuff, I
need
think,
a little bit of both.
yeah.
We need options.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
We
just
could
put
do a
stuff on the
farmer's market.
table. This is a good brainstorming to get, I mean, now is the time to do it because, otherwise we won't get it.
and I just want to say the fresh foods, we still need to keep advocating to get farmers markets back in this area. We lost them after 9/11. They've never come back. We really need to get them back in this
Where would
Isn't
you
the,
like the
isn't the
farmer's
farmer's market in the World Trade Center though? I've
Yes,
seen
at
it.
the Oculus.
Well, we used
It
to have
is.
one at Zuccotti Park. I don't know if the one over at Battery Park City, do you guys still have it?
No,
There's
No.
one at the Oculus.
But
That's
Yeah,
there's
the
on Brookfield
Oculus,
property.
yeah, they come there.
They do
but
come there.
not anymore. It was just on Tuesdays, and they stopped it during COVID. So
Yeah.
I do see as
Okay.
part of the reso, perhaps including a New York City.
Okay, so we have farmer's market. I'm
Well,
gonna
I
get
didn't necessarily mean it had to
space.
be with the
Wait,
World Trade
okay.
Center number 5.
Yeah, I guess that's what
Okay,
I would
So
say.
the free
Agree.
for all, this is great. Let me do some raised hands things and then it can become whatever. Okay, so Mariama, would you like to speak?
Yeah, first I wanted to clarify when you were referring to a resolution already being on record. Is that the one from Quality of Life or does
Yes.
land use have one as well? Okay.
No, land use needs to make one. So that's why we're trying to collect the wish list for our land use resolution.
Okay, very good. So to Jill and I believe Justine's earlier points with regard to the guidelines, I've read them as well. And there are several that use the wording shall, which therefore means that it's a requirement of the building. And I think that we should push back on all of those just outright and completely. And I would not be opposed to, in fact, I'd be in support of simply saying, in addition to these things that we're laying out here, that we support the project plan moving forward to the extent that we support them being allowed to allow for residential housing, whereas it doesn't now, but not anything that would lock us into needing the curved glass and there's a bunch of stuff there that's a requirement that would cause, could very likely make affordability impossible that we want to avoid. And then as far as stores, I too would support a grocery store like a Trader Joe's, a Costco, something that is affordable. Even like Aldi and Target sometimes can be useful for people if they're large enough, not like the Target on Greenwich, but the kind that has the grocery store in it, in other neighborhoods.
Okay, that's great. Okay, I don't know, is there an order to when people raise their hands, or should I just go by my
I'm sorry,
visual
could I
order?
just say, it could be a combination grocery store, drugstore, sorry, that was it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go in visual order here. So Gerald,
Yeah, I've had my hand raised for quite a while, Laura. It's Richard.
wait,
Richard,
has?
if Richard
I'm
would like
sorry,
to
you
go
know
first,
what?
that's
I'm
fine.
so bad at working this like I couldn't see now I have you guys up now I can see all the hands. So I apologize. So should Richard go first?
Sure, yes.
Okay, Richard.
Thanks, Gerald. You're a gentleman. So full disclosure, I'm also a member of the 100% Affordable 5 World Trade Center Coalition. And I want to just sort of reemphasize what Mariam is just saying and clarify a couple of things from my perspective and what I believe we're trying to accomplish principally. First of all, as Mariama just said, it is our objective to have these guidelines approved to the extent that it's essential for our objective to allow for residential and actually probably most likely mixed use of this facility, because otherwise it could very readily revert back to an office building if that's not permitted. And that's the last thing we want to see happen as a coalition. And the mixed use capability, of course, helps pay for that. So that is a very positive thing. As for the various uses of, I have no, quarrels with what Jill and others are saying about, wanting more space for seniors and community facilities. I certainly won't argue that, but I do have a problem with us laying out the particular kinds of stores and shops by name that we want here. I mean, this seems to be not only pointless, but not helpful. We're not the developers, we're not the lessors. We want function, but I don't think it's our approach to specify which particular commercial operation is one that we favor. If we want a grocery store in that community, we should say we want a grocery store, and leave it at that. I just can't. I'm hard pressed to sign on to anything that says I want to target a low cost Target, or a particular grocery store. That's not what I think our role is.
But where can we say affordable grocery store?
I don't even know. Sure, say affordable grocery store, but I don't even know what that is, because I have to tell you, everybody complains about Whole Foods. I lived across the street from the Food Emporium. Whole Foods was cheaper than that. So
Yeah.
you could have said Food Emporium was a cheap grocery store, but it was more expensive than Whole Foods.
I have one suggestion, because if I were to generalize what I'm hearing about the retail, it's that, the World Trade Center site has a lot of tourists going through it, a lot of commuters going through it. We're a residential community. We want some retail that will serve us as a residential community. And I think that is a fair thing to ask. And there's, a different, like if the grocery store is going to be like the Spanish version of Italy, that's not what we're talking about. So I do think that we can be generic, but I think we have to be specific in what we have in mind, or they're just going to keep doing this tourist stuff.
Yes, Laura, if there's a way to say it in a generic way, I totally support that. I just don't want us to be specifying particular commercial brands. I think it's highly inappropriate for us to be doing that.
I think philosophically what's going on here is that, the rest of the World Trade Center has been built, and it's commercial and it's international and it's the memorial and it's tourists and it's all these things. And this, like, we're trying to get something for the community here. We're trying to get an affordable place to buy food, to buy toilet paper, to buy sheets. We're trying to have a place for the seniors to go. And, this is what I'm hearing. And I think that we need a kind of topic sentence that explains really philosophically where we're coming from so that, you know, they can make some decisions within that rubric. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, and I'm wholly in support of that. I just want to say one more thing about the design guidelines, and that's what you've been hearing is very important. I think we have to really focus on that. The difference, Jill was saying, the difference between may and shall. And our concern is that a number of the things that are identified as shall limit the ability to alter the cost structure of this that could affect our ability to reach 100% affordable housing. So I think from our purpose, anything, at least as I read this, anything that says may, I don't have a problem with. Things that say shall that actually affect the cost, that's where we have a problem. That's where I have a problem. And I think I'd like to think I'm speaking at least on behalf of what our coalition has been saying at our meetings.
Okay. Are you saying that
Look
like-
to the actual guidelines themselves and identify those specific phrases where shall, I mean, this is Laura, not Laura, I mean, Diana, this is a happy task for you, I'm afraid. What says shall and does it really relate to a cost element? And that's where we have a problem. And how to phrase this to change that or to adjust it, this is what I think from 100% affordability standpoint, that's our primary concern.
Okay, so maybe, you know, they talk about this building being state of the art. And I think what we want is state of the art that is incorporating a residential community's interests. And that, you know, like that is what they can pride themselves on, is really collaborating with the community to do something different, both in the podium where the retail and the amenities are for the community, and also with, you know, whatever we can get with the affordable housing. I personally hope that the aesthetics of the building are not compromised too much, because it's a huge tower on the skyline of an international destination. And I, you know, I would still like to keep their urban design quality high. And they want to do that also. That's just my 2 cents. Okay, so who?
And couldn't they, and Laura, couldn't they do that under a guideline that says may?
Yes. I'm not arguing with you about the may and the shall. I think.
Okay, I got it.
I just also, you know, don't want to sacrifice urban design, because I think, you know, it's an ensemble of buildings and it should be elegant and world class. So I think we need to find a way to keep the world class and the affordability somehow. So for those of you who are experts on WebEx, how, as a facilitator, am I supposed to know what order people have their hands up in?
You won't, just go down the line.
Yeah,
Okay.
order I don't think you're gonna get, but you can see whose hands are raised.
Okay, well, let's go to Betty,
Yeah.
and then we'll go to Gerald, and then we'll go to Alice.
Well, since Gerald was called on before, Gerald, if you'd like to go before me, please do.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Betty. So yeah, only because I was called on before, I guess. So that's okay. My question is, what discussion has been had regarding Albany Plaza, if any? I don't see it in any of the documents as far as any sort of street public space. I understand that Liberty, you know, on the north side, you have a raised platform, Liberty Park, rather green space above, you know, raised above there next to St. Nicholas. But across the street, the Washington, on the south, let's see here, that would be the southwest corner, has Gwathmey Plaza open to the public. But Albany Street, what is the status of that? I know that Downtown Alliance has been taking care of it. I find it interesting that it wouldn't be required to be incorporated into the overall development as a public plaza. We need more of it. It's on the south side of the street, which certainly helps for these cold days, you know, getting an ounce of sun in between the buildings. And I mean, I'm down through this. I literally walk through this site on a regular basis. So we definitely need more green space in this area.
But they only have a 3-foot setback there. Am I reading, if I'm reading the plan right on page 11?
Yeah, they have a very small landscape buffer, but there's already a street plaza in place, and I'm wondering why they're being allowed to do away with what's already an existing plaza.
You mean where the building footprint is going to supplant the plaza?
Correct.
I see. So maybe we should go to the build, where is that?
So I am looking at the project site on 8.
I'm sorry, wasn't that, I live right across the street. That was just, I thought, put there because we requested to beautify the area. And so they put it there temporarily until they decided to build on the site.
That could very well be. This
Yeah.
site goes way back before my time, but I think that it would behoove us. I think it would behoove us to find out whether it was a temporary, always to be temporary. Ironically, my thesis in 2018 was interventions for urban plazas, and I used Albany Street Plaza as one of the intervention sites. So, and to Vicky's, to speak to Vicky's, the intervention was actually for a farmer's market on that site. I think it would be a wonderful location for some sort of an open air market.
But the building's going to take that spot, you know, take that spot.
Okay, let's move on. Gerald, do you have any other points you want to make?
I just want to point out that, you know, there is Washington and Carlisle Street is a 52-story development that's slated for development. It's been purchased recently. I think it may be a matter of right development, but there is a proximity here. So just to keep that in mind in terms of residential, it's going to be, from my understanding, it's going to be 52 stories of residential. So yeah, a grocery store in the area and some outdoor public seating, public areas would be very, very important to the community.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, Betty.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, while you were talking about the commercial space, I'd like to go back to that for a moment. I want to mention that one of the things that is my biggest headache is getting healthcare providers, dentists and people, not as much physicians, but some of the physicians, podiatrists, certainly all dentists. Even with the people who take my insurance, 50% say they're completely inaccessible. Of the 50% who say they're accessible, I've gotten 0 out of the 4 that I've tried. They all claim they're accessible until I go there in person and they say, well, we don't really know. But not one of them has an accessible toilet in the building. So anything that would allow, my hope would be, since this should be a more accessible building, if they could do something to give some preference to healthcare provision in those areas where it really isn't provided in Lower Manhattan for people who have mobility problems.
Okay, that's a really good point. Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Alice?
Yeah, thanks. I wholeheartedly agree with a lot that's already been said, particularly Richard and Gerald. I mean, Richard is absolutely right. The key here is to highlighting these design guidelines, the fact that it's residential. I mean, that's critical. So whatever we think we want to have to support it, whether in fact it is schools, I have no idea. I also have heard that we have enough school seats, but whatever, the idea of a market, the idea of residential uses, sanitation, how are these streets being used? I mean, I agree with Gerald that I don't know if the ship has already sailed, and it isn't a project I have to admit I followed closely. So I don't know, but it seems to me that we should be looking much more at the landscaping, the trees, the sidewalks, the potential for public space, potential for roof usage. This is a place where there'll be children needing to play and get out. And, is there, I don't, is this something that's part of the design guidelines? I mean, what I'm reading here is almost laughable. So I'm sure I've missed some aspect of this earlier, of course, which defined it. But to look at exterior guidelines that include a glassy character with rounded corners is frankly a travesty of a description for any building and for any architect to follow. So I'm not sure what that means, but I would be removing that right off the bat. So I guess I would just say that we should stress the things that have already been mentioned about the need for addressing residential use and identify what those things are, and a much more clarity as to how the streetscape is being used, the urbanscape, in terms of landscaping and potential for having additional outdoor space somewhere, and the need for it to be resilient, of course, and to be greened. And there's very little on the building itself and its sustainability. There's very little written as to the guidelines on
Well,
that.
they
I
have
assume that's somewhere,
they
but
have
that's to
LEED
me awful.
Gold, and they have Local Law 97 and a
Yeah,
bunch
but
of
that's not
Gotta
enough.
be all electrical.
Right. I would say it could go further than that. So anyway, those are my points that,
Okay.
sort of have already been addressed. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Alice. Rosa.
Thank you. I agree with what people have said before, that we must write a resolution, because this is our chance to opine on this. And if we decide that we're just going to say, oh, we're against this, then we basically just lose our opportunity to have a voice on this discussion. And I think it's absolutely important that we do have a voice on this discussion. So my voice on this discussion would be that I agree with what everyone's saying in terms of mixed use is absolutely better than a full commercial. And what we have right now, as of right, is a full commercial, and mixed use is 100% what we want. I would strongly advocate for an increase in the civic infrastructure, because as was mentioned earlier, you can't just keep adding people and families and expect the infrastructure that's already like incredibly abysmally low for the number of people that we have to keep bearing the weight of more and more and more people. So the community facility space, I think, must be increased, and it must be increased significantly. Regarding the comments earlier about the square footage allocations, I had asked actually, probably one of my very first questions at the 5 World Trade PAC was, whether or not the community facility use, the small pittance of community facility use, was actually enabling them to increase the overall square footage. And they said that no, they work off of a completely different regulations for this site. And so how they slice and dice that square footage allocation is actually up to them. And this is a new application. What they, I believe, have to respect is the overall square footage, but what is allocated for any specific use is flexible. And that's what this application is about. And so I would request that we strongly urge an increase in the allotment for community facility. Related to Betty's comment, this building should be 100% ADA compliant. And I think that all public spaces should be ADA compliant. And the medical facility use would fall under the community facility zoning, right? So, so I think an increase in that would also make a lot of sense, especially given the whole history of the site. And the 9/11 survivors and the healthcare issues that we are facing in our neighborhoods. Related to schools, youth and ed, I sit in on a lot of those. And my son is going to be moving into that new school that's going just a few blocks south, hopefully in September, if SEA gets done with their thing on time. And I would say that from sitting in on a whole bunch of youth and ed, and specifically as related to that particular school site, we do not have a full-size gymnasium in that building. And in downtown, I believe, somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, that there are only 3 full-size gymnasiums in buildings that are supposed to have full-size gymnasiums, of which I believe there are 11 schools. So you have 3 full-size gymnasiums in 11 schools. So we are absolutely lacking in access to these gymnasiums. And I believe that Bob Townley had done a study on what the usage was, and it was insane. Like they're used 7 days a week, pretty much 24 hours a day. Like it's incredible. The demand is huge, and there just aren't the publicly accessible resources. So I would say we need more community facility space for our seniors, for our youth, but also just for everybody, everybody and anybody. We can't keep adding like 1,200 units without adding the infrastructure to go.
Rosa, may I suggest, I mean, those statistics you gave, I think we should add those in the resolution because they're really powerful.
Okay.
You know, and
I would check it with Youth and Ed and Bob Townley.
Yeah, let's check it with Bob and with Youth and Ed, but I think that builds a really strong argument for us.
Yes, absolutely.
And sorry to butt in, this is Wendy. There's a resolution that you can just get from Tricia from past resolutions outlining exactly this.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah, you don't have to go to anyone. We have it already.
No, I think also, you know, having like multiple floors of gym facilities and all of that built into this building means that if other schools do need to be built, you know, it'll be simpler because they'll have this big gym space available.
So hey, just to interrupt, Rosa, I remember you saying from one of the early meetings you went to that they said because of the design of the elevators, they couldn't build a gym, a full-size gym, that there was something about that because of course that was the immediate ask was for gym space.
Right.
But
the reality is that this is actually, so all of this is just numbers in Excel and lines in CAD. So it's all computer. So there's
no, I agree, but
if they want to put their if we want to ask, like if we're going to ask for anything that we want, then I would say make a core that works with the integration of a community facility that would integrate gyms as part of that community facility. So make a core that works because that core doesn't exist yet.
KPF can figure this out, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's lines in a computer right now, and they don't even have the contract. So I say we ask what we want, but
Chelsea Piers is very profitable.
Michael, did you have your hand up?
Oh, wait. Sorry. I'm so sorry, but I'm not finished yet. And I have a couple of important points.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
One was related to the grocery stores. I want people to understand that when you're asking about grocery stores, there's a very specific thing about those, which is that they need constant in and out with large trucks, right? The supply and garbage issue is not small. And this has a loading dock area, but it's going to see constant use because if you can imagine the stuff that goes in and out of a building that has 1,200 residential units in it. So when you're asking for a grocery store, consider that the trucks will be constant and that the size of the trucks will be very large. And I don't know if they can make it through these streets, very honestly, because that is a consideration of every single grocery store is the traffic plan of how did they get stuff in and out of there, right? Mm-hmm. That's just a logistics issue. And that takes a lot of sites off the table, frankly, for larger grocery stores because their trucks just can't get there. And they do have in the design guidelines a section on the food service establishment, so you may want to refer to that when you are talking about what you want in terms of food service or grocery. And I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Okay. So Michael, you did not have it seemed like Michael's hand was up, but now it's not up.
Yeah, well, I was just going to clarify earlier about Albany Plaza. It was, LMDC wanted to have a temporary amenity and the Alliance got involved. We operate under year-to-year renewals of an agreement with LMDC, which of course they'll stop renewing when the project becomes active development. So I just wanted to clarify.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Michael, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Michael, at the Alliance, isn't your boss, or wasn't he the head of Brookfield Investments or Brookfield Commercial Properties? And in that case, wouldn't it make sense to recuse from the discussion since Brookfield is an integral part of this?
He's not with Brookfield
As of when?
as of some months ago. So
Some months ago. So, okay.
I'm not gonna get into a whole public discussion about
Jill?
that. If I think it's appropriate to recuse, or I would do so.
Exactly.
Okay.
We have a whole department that does it. Each individual member is responsible for their own.
Okay. Okay, so now I see hands up again. Is that should we go around again? Gerald?
Yeah, Laura, I just have one additional item here that I would like to add to some sort of a resolution, which is this issue of sustainability. I mean, there's only two sentences here on sustainability. It seems like this should be developed, and if one of the guidelines is for the building to be state of the art, I don't believe that New York City has a net positive building yet. I could be wrong on that, but I don't know of one. And I certainly don't want to make things so expensive that it's not affordable. However, I think that there are some very basic possibilities of having this structure, especially if it's going to be all electric, generate its own energy and be net positive. Why not?
Okay.
Thank you.
Add that in. Good. Okay, that follows up on Alice's point also, which is good. Okay, Justine.
Thanks. Just a quick couple of things. Well, you know what I think already about the mixed use and residential and senior center and all that. But in terms of the glass facades, isn't that like exactly what we don't need in terms of all the birds that are being killed? I read some the birds that are crashing into the World Trade Center complex now. I think I saw something like 260 birds. I don't know, it was a year, a day, a week, whatever. But it seems as if we really need to do better with what we're building. And then when you say net positive, Gerald, so that's like net positive versus passive house, but net positive is the next step up from passive house or something, right? Yeah, you're shaking your head, yes. So yes, I agree with that 100%. We really should be building this to the most environmentally sound standards that exist. Because I can tell you, even in Battery Park City, they touted the Leeds building as like so great, and 10 years later they're obsolete. So we should be striving for what's the cutting edge right now, and knowing that it's going to be obsolete soon.
Okay, just let me ask a question about the affordable housing. I mean, do you think we should specifically ask for affordable senior housing?
Well, yeah, yes. I mean, I think the resolution that the Quality of Life put forth, Pat and Mariama, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we addressed that. But if we didn't, yeah, I mean, part of, again, fair
The
warning.
way the coalition
Yeah, that's what I'm going with. Yeah.
puts it out there is 9/11 survivors, their children, and seniors.
And seniors and first responders, right? Survivors.
And the survivors is inclusive of, yes, first responders
and their families, and their children.
And their children and seniors.
Yes.
Whether they're 9/11 or not. Yeah, that's for whom we've been seeking preference.
Because
Miriam and Jill, you're going to write another reso, a larger reso, which I assume you will make that even clearer. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But I think there you go. Thank you for finding that. Desperate need for
okay, so are we ready to hand this off to our wonderful resolution writer?
I had one more comment too.
Okay. Go ahead.
So to Betty's point first, one of the other things the coalition has been working on, which we announced at Senator Kavanaugh's forum, was that one of the potential funding mechanisms for this building is in fact a hospital or medical center, or maybe like a skilled nursing center, some sort of thing. And that would allow us to get money from a different bucket where the state wouldn't have to be tapped. It would come out of something through HUD. There's also the potential to get some money from like federal Medicare and or Medicaid if we do it that way. So that is one of the things we have on the table as part of our proposal and part of our comments that will be coming up for EDC and the LMDC and Port Authority.
Okay.
So we're totally with you on that. Not only the need for the medical attention to be right there in the building, especially for seniors and 9/11 survivors, but it can also give us a way to fund the building and fund the affordability.
Can I ask a question on that idea? I mean, the old command center used to be in Seven World Trade.
Mhm.
Is that an interesting angle at all? Or I mean, I don't know where the command center is now.
I don't know if that would be a potential funding
I can speak to
mechanism
that.
for the building. I'm not sure. I could definitely check with Carol, who's an expert on it.
That might
Mary,
not be safe, but Tammy was going to say something.
We already approved where the World Trade Center, WTCC, came before the board last month. They are not going to be on World Trade Center Command campus. They are in the buildings that was presented and passed by resolution last month.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep, on in the middle of the financial on not the street behind John Street.
Okay.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah. I forgot about that too.
Okay. I would like to wrap things up. Is there
The other thing I wanted to say was to Alice's point, when she was talking about the curved glass and all of that, this guideline word, quote unquote guidelines, it's a real misnomer. That is one of the things that is a requirement. We really want to be careful about those types of items that are listed as requirements of the project plan. I wouldn't want to support any of those, I don't believe. I know I don't as an individual.
Maybe the way to do that is just to say change shall to may.
What if we put that the design guidelines should only use may, so that the design rather than shall, so that they operate as actual design guidelines rather than anything that locks in any one particular thing, so to leave maximum flexibility, or so that it's not prohibitive for things like maximizing affordable housing and community facility use.
I think that's great. And if you put that caveat as the explanation, I think that makes sense.
Or invention and innovation for architectural aspects.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it gives options.
I have one question for for everybody. Are there examples in the world, around the world, of buildings that are doing what we're asking this building to do, that have this amount of community amenity in the podium and are, like a tall building with, that's affordable, that like this package we're trying to create? Are there precedents for it? That's what I'm saying.
Singapore does an amazing job of luxury affordable housing, luxury towers that are totally affordable.
Okay, so maybe let's look into that. Let's do a little bit of homework and just get wiser about this so that we can help the process along with the state. What do you think? Like showing them some examples, and showing the architects some examples. I think, it always helps to do that. And, they want to be world class, so they should be looking at examples around the world. And it's not just about the architecture, it's about the sociology. That's really what we're talking about, is building a community and, improving the community fabric down here. And that's what this building needs to help with.
Yeah, I saw a documentary or something, I can't remember, but it was exactly what you're saying, Mariam, in Singapore, and it was this beautiful tiered housing. It was just so gorgeous, and the people in it were saying, "Yeah, we're low income, and we're here. We've been here for years. This is where I grew up." It was wonderful, and it was long lasting, and it was like the complete opposite of what NYCHA is in terms of maintenance support. And, yeah, it
Governments
exists.
are not corporate American governments. We're talking.
Yeah, right. There you go. But it works, and it seems like it's been working for decades. So yeah.
Well, this is we're in a really good moment to get what we want because of the gubernatorial election coming up. So I think this is it. We should push. Okay, I think so. do I need to make a motion or how does this work? You have to, we don't have anything written yet, or
We don't
Diana?
have anything written. Everything that we've discussed will be included. I'm thrilled with how this conversation's gone. You know, we already are on record in part on affordable housing. We'll reference that, including what we talked about tonight. We talked about the community facility use, senior, the environmental component, grocery stores, and you know, targeting supporting the not only the community that already exists, because that's desperately needed, but Laura, you were talking about the whole philosophy of, you know, the World Trade Center is built out and now we need something that will support the surrounding community and all of the new residents that this building will be bringing. And I think we gave lots of examples. If it's needed, I can go through all my notes, and Laura, you can chime in too, but I will include I'm a notorious.
Okay, so can we make a
Speaker,
motion to
everything.
support
Yes,
this
do that.
resolution?
Second,
Yeah, I would
Okay,
second that.
I'm gonna call it, so, well, is there anybody opposing? Speak up, because, okay, nobody's opposing, anybody, oh, wait, Tammy, do you have your hand up? Did I mess up?
It's fine. No problems. I'll
Okay,
take
so
it down.
sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, any, abstentions?
This is Mike Kettering here. I'd like to abstain, although I agreed with a lot of the sentiment here today because it's all tied to the 100% affordability, which I did abstain on before. I'm going to have to abstain on this again, unfortunately.
Okay, recusals. Okay, I think we've got unanimous consent in that case. And Tammy, you could still speak, even though I'm so,
Thanks. So I do want to speak about one thing that is different drastically than Singapore. We want as maximum affordability as we can get. We have heard already from not one agency, not one everything, that 100% is probably unsustainable in the long term by the way that the United States operates, and specifically New York City for housing. I'm not saying that we walk away from the request for 100%, but what I am saying is if this was me and I was in committee, I would have pushed for a tweak for as close to, or you know, majority close to, somewhere along that for 100%, because what has been said many times while we've been having this discussion in the public forums is that for long-term viability, they do need an income stream above affordability to help with long-term maintenance. And what we don't want is what everyone has said is a NYCHA housing that has money that gets it built and then it falls into disrepair over the long term. So I am not going to do anything to change the vote that is here today, but I would like some people to do a little bit of thought process on that for how we can come out to be as strong as possible, but understand that if that's a need that needs to happen, that we can provide some space for it and everybody come out for a full win, that we have a building that's maxed with variety of levels of affordability, and that we have long-term solutions in place for a revenue stream that does not diminish the quality of what has been built.
well, that, can we retroactively add that into the resolution?
You'd have to probably take a new vote. I would ask our parliamentarian to give advice on that. That's Mr. Kettering.
Michael, what can we do to incorporate? Because I didn't see Tammy's hand, but I think her comments should be
You'd have to,
incorporated.
if it's added, you'd have to revote, because I know that
Okay,
the
let's revote.
position I mentioned is not 100% supported across the board.
Okay.
So
Does anybody want to have a comment on what?
Can I don't know that I'm ready.
I'm sorry to interrupt that. Unfortunately, we've taken the vote already on this, so I don't know what we can do except maybe do a friendly amendment at the full board meeting.
Okay, well, I would support that because I think what Tammy's saying makes a lot of sense. Does anybody have any, I mean, Does anybody want to air any comments now quickly so that we don't have
I mean,
to?
haven't we voted? Isn't this done? I mean, we'll add
Okay,
it.
we're done. I guess we're done. I feel bad because I didn't see Tammy's hand.
It's
That's
a
all.
friendly amendment that'll come up in the board meeting. It can be added, so it's not.
Okay.
I
am going to do it.
language based on what Tammy said to be suggested at full board.
But wait, may I say something? I'm not sure. A lot of what she said I agree with and was great. I'm not sure that the 100% coalition for 100% affordability is quite ready yet to give up 100%. So I don't know how friendly it is.
I understand that, and that's why
yeah.
soul searching, because we are submitting public comment that needs to go in, that will be, for open until February. But I do think that our best positions for success to get what we want is to have some place. I'm not saying put a number in, but because if we got 95% and 5 worked, that's fantastic. But we do, in my belief, need to leave room for the future, because it is so important that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past that we have currently.
Well, I would say the coalition we don't disagree with that. And we're just not ready to, as you said, Justine, to begin the negotiation process. Right now, we have the people who are saying that it can't be done are people like, entities like Port Authority, who are saying the reason it can't be done is because we need $12 million a year. We have the officials on our side who are saying it can be done, and they're still willing to help us to figure out ways to get it done. And officials like Gail Brewer wanting to go out there and talk to foundations and talk to, millionaires and billionaires and say, just give me the money so we can get this done, because we do want 100. So I don't think that we're prepared to walk back from 100 at this point.
But that's not to say we won't ever get there.
Right, be negotiable at all.
Right? Is that, I mean,
exactly.
I think that's fair. So I don't know where that leaves us, and the only reason why I'm sticking my 2 cents in, and I think Mariama too, is because I don't know how friendly it's going to be, and do we want to have this fight at the full board?
I think we're going to have the fight no matter what.
Okay.
And so this is my prep for it for everybody. Yes, if I had been recognized before the vote, no offense intended to Laura, because I have done the same thing Laura has. It is a shitload not fun some nights, but it is something that I will say at the full board. And so if people can think about or suggest wording that you want to send to me that does not necessarily give up, but provides an opportunity in some manner, I am absolutely 100% open-eared for anything that we can do that will not turn it into a full screaming match left and right.
Yes, I'm 100% in accord with you, Tammy.
Thank you. And I will shut up now. Thank you, everybody, for the hard work.
Okay, I do have one question. Sorry, I wanted to ask this committee, this 100% affordable committee, have you guys done your homework on the economics of this? I mean, do you deeply?
There's actually tonight, simultaneous to this meeting, we put out a call to architects in tandem with Citigroup, and there's over 100 architects on a call giving suggestions as to how it could be 100% affordable. So again, we're not ready to walk back from that.
Okay. Okay.
But I want to add also to that a fundamental element of doing the homework on this is getting the information from the agencies that actually went into the calculations of these costs. Information that this community board and others have been asking for many, many months, and it's not been, and we've never received it other than at the last forum that we had. They showed the high level numbers that they're now claiming is the cost per apartment. So and the cost to make it 100% affordable. We really would want their underlying spreadsheets, and we could work with those, but we haven't gotten that underlying data from them. So we're taking these other steps that Mariama one of them that Mariama just described, which was getting information from or input from a range of architects. We've had conversations with architects that do high-rise buildings and what those costs could possibly be in a building like this. But these are all very, very rough. Suffice
I
it
mean,
to say, though, we know it's going to be an 80-story tower, a 60-story tower, an 80-story tower. It's expensive. We
Yeah.
know that. The question is quite how expensive and where can we get the money to actually accomplish what this neighborhood and community needs?
okay, well, I am getting reminded from multiple sources that we are done. This is obviously a topic that needs more input and more research, and it's, it's really fascinating. I mean, the one thing I know is that like the money to build the building is like this finite amount, but the maintenance and sustainability of the building goes on as long as the building lasts. So it's, anyway, I hope you guys do your research and that we can find a way to not hold up the full board meeting extensively with this issue, that we can come to some kind of resolution amongst, I don't know, somehow amongst ourselves before that, so that we can have a kind of a smooth, friendly amendment or something at the full board. And on that note, good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Good
thanks.
night.